The internet is full of whiskey forums telling people you got to try Islay Scotch, you got to try Island Scotch, you got to try anything that's heavily peated. Well, to a rookie, heavily peated means burning tires. Unfortunately, there's a method to peated Scotch, and as a rookie, what's the best peated Scotch to go ahead and try as your first peated? Well, I may have an answer for you here. We're going to go ahead and try Old Ballantruan 10-year-old Speyside heavily peated single malt Scotch. Stay tuned. All right, this is Scott, and you are watching the Rookie Wine and Whiskey Enthusiast channel, one of the only YouTube channels out there that both review wine and whiskey, specifically, but not exclusively, Washington State wines and whiskeys. Tonight is one of those exclusive moments. As I said in my intro, that there's a lot of people out there, they want to explore Scotch. And the first thing that they think about with Scotch is heavily peated, smoky, tarry, briny, iodine type of Scotch. And the thing is vast majority of Scotch is not like that. However, for those that have introduced themselves to Scotch, they like the Speyside, the Highland, or the Lowland styles of Scotches, which are not normally heavily peated, but they want to try an Island style or a heavily peated Highland style, or even more so, the Islay Scotches, which normally, the vast majority of them are heavily peated. So, you go onto a whiskey forum now, in whether it's Facebook or on the internet or in Reddit, and you're going to ask people, well, I want to introduce myself to peated Scotch. How do I do it? You're going to have the jokers. They're going to say, well, you want to go ahead and try Laphroaig. Well, Google Laphroaig advertisements, because Laphroaig actually makes fun of themselves, and you'll see what you're going to be tasting. Ardbeg, obviously one of my favorite peated Scotches, but I would never introduce a friend of mine who comes to me and says, I want to try a peated Scotch. I would never do that to them, just because Ardbeg is one of the most heavily peated Scotches out there. There's nuance in heavily peated Scotches, and only probably about 5% of people that try heavily peated Scotches for the very first time that go into those Islay Scotches like it. The rest are turned off from Scotch and the nuances that they can bring. So what I was doing is I was at Total Wine last week, and I was going down up and down the aisle just to see what they had, if there's anything new. And I got to talking to one of the employees, and they had just gotten in. Here's the tube, here's the bottle. This is Old Ballantruan, and it's a 10-year-old Speyside. Now, Speyside, when it comes to Scottish regions, is one of the least peated regions. They don't use a whole lot of peat. But Old Ballantruan is distilled by the Tall Distillery, and this is actually a peated malt. Now, it says right here on the bottle, Speyside Glenlivet. Now, it's not done by the Glenlivet Distillery, but the Glenlivet region within Speyside. Single malt Scotch, 10-year-old. This is bought, there's two reasons that I really wanted to try this. Number one, a lot of Scotches are going to be at 40% ABV or 43% ABV. Some boost it up to 46. Very few of them go to cask strength. This peated Scotch is unchill filtered. I don't know if there's any coloring. They didn't say about that there's no coloring added, so I'm going to assume there's a little coloring added. But the biggest thing is this is at 50% ABV, so it's 100 proof. So we're going to go ahead and get a really good expression on this. Now, I'm not going to go into the details on how they peat the Scotch. Okay, basically they're using peat bog, and they're drying out the malted barley, so to stop the process of it growing, developing the sugars and things like that. So now, if you take a look at this, this is a nice bright golden color. Okay, and at 50%, it's got some nice long legs that go around the rim of the glass. So there's some really good oils. That's the non-chill filtering that they've decided not to do, because a lot of the chill filtering will take some of those oils and additives that are naturally occurring in the Scotch, and which I think gives it a lot more flavor. So anyways, let's go ahead to the nose on this. Now, when you nose this Scotch, I really should have a glass of Ardbeg right next to it because as a standard, but I'm not going to do that right now because this scotch is actually really exciting as is. Now, on the nose, I am getting a peppery campfire style of smoke. So the way I would describe it is if you've ever had a really peppered brisket sitting over a campfire or my wife and I love tri-tip sirloins, and we will go ahead and salt, pepper it, and then throw it on the grill. And that smoke that comes up off that peppery, that's what I'm getting. I'm getting a very peppery style of smoke on this. Now, I believe I read that this is aged in ex-American bourbon cask, which makes sense because I'm not getting a whole lot of fruit, but I am getting vanilla bean and then lots and lots of malt, which probably would explain why it's a malted barley. Um, anyways, the other thing I'm getting on this is kind of a coconut milk smell. So it's kind of giving me a little bit of a creamy note. So if you ever poured coconut milk or heavy whipping cream or something like that, and you just go ahead and smell coconut milk someday, and you'll get what I'm talking about. It kind of it sits heavy in the air, and it blends well with the smoke that I'm sensing. So yeah, this is not. It says it's heavily peated, but I don't think it really is as heavily peated as what you'd think with regards to a Islay or an Island Scotch. Let's go ahead and take a sip of this. First thing I get is that creamy feeling. It coats the mouth. There's a beautiful oily coating to this. The coconut really starts to come out, and it almost takes, it almost pushes the vanilla bean kind of back a little bit. Now, the campfire smoke, it's there. It sits, it lingers. And to be honest with you, I've had this poured in my glass now for a little bit, about 10 minutes. And as Ralphie likes to say, leave it in the glass, 1 year in the glass for every year in the cask. So this was sitting in my glass for about 10 minutes to let it open up. And yeah, this has really opened up. Like I said, it's creaminess, the coconut, slight vanilla bean, the smoke is sitting there. And I'm now getting a bit of honey. For those that like hot cereal, I know there's a whole lot of people who don't, but there used to be a hot cereal out there called Malt-O-Meal. I loved it. Loved it. Now that I'm keto, I can't eat it anymore. But anyways, I used to love Malt-O-Meal with honey dribbled over it, and that is what I'm getting. It is very creamy. Now, going to the finish though, the problem with this single malt is that it is a short to a medium finish, and it's not overly complicated. I'm not getting a whole lot of those flavors lingering on my palate for a very long time. I am getting the smoke, which is lingering much longer than either the honey or the malt or the coconut or the vanilla, but it is there, but it does tend to go away rather quickly. So now, one thing I know I have not done in quite some time is, I've not done this with this. Normally my rule of thumb is if it's 100%, 100 proof or 50% ABV or less, I normally don't add water to it. But because this is unchill filtered, I am going to go ahead and add just a drop of water to that, maybe dropping it down to 88 or 87% ABV. And what I want to see, and there it is. Now the camera's not going to pick this up, but it's something called Scottish Mist. I think it's more indicative of a good quality Scotch when they don't chill filter it. And what it's doing is it's breaking up the oils. Water to oil, they don't mix, which is what this is what this is doing here. So let's go ahead and see if it changes anything on the nose. Oh wow. This is the first time I've added water to this. The smoke has gone from a nice, deep, rich campfire smoke to a smoldering smoke that's almost just wafting on the air, okay? Where the campfire is burning down and you're not getting as much intense, but the vanilla has really come forward, and now I'm actually getting honey on the nose. Where I didn't get the honey on the nose, I got it on the palate. I'm getting it on the nose now with the vanilla, with the vanilla bean. And I'm almost not getting the coconut milk either, which is strange. Normally, something like creaminess on something that's going to give you a creamy nose is normally going to stay, but on this time it's not. Let's go ahead and take a sip of this. I'm excited, actually. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. There's almost that little, I mean, half a cap full of water. There is almost no smoke lingering on the palate. This is now all malt. It's now all honey. It is now all vanilla. I can taste the coconut. Matter of fact, the coconut, where it wasn't pronounced on the nose when I added the water, it's very pronounced on my palate. And it's actually somewhat lengthened the finish on this. I'll be honest with you, I should probably add more water to more scotches more often, but I'm really going to enjoy this. If I were to grade this, and let's go ahead, I'm going to just go ahead and give a good grade. If you want this as a staple, as an introductory to a peated single malt scotch, not Islay, not Island, but actually a Speyside scotch, you got to have this in your cabinet. If you like Ardbeg, if you like Laphroaig, if you like Lagavulin, this is not going to be as challenging as those three. But to your friend who wants to get introduced to it, this is going to be perfect. This bottle of single malt is a solid 88 out of 100. I can honestly see, now it's going to develop over time. I'm now down into the shoulder pores. It's going to develop a little over time, and can't wait to see what happens to it. But I'll be honest with you, this really excites me to see. So anyways, listen, thank you very much. Please go ahead and like, comment, share. You know, have you had Old Ballantruan 10-year-old single malt scotch? Let me know in the comment section below. Share this. If you have somebody who is a scotch nut or a bourbon nut who wants to explore scotches and especially peated malts, share this video. Let people know that there is something out there for the scotch drinker or the bourbon drinker who wants to explore peated. This will help you do it. So anyways, and then go ahead and if you go ahead and subscribe, make sure you hit the bell button on the side. That way, when I do upload content like this, you guys will be notified. So anyways, listen, thank you very much for tuning in with me today and really enjoying Old Ballantruan, Scottish names, Old Ballantruan 10-year-old Speyside peated malt scotch. Please drink responsibly, and remember, life is too short for either bad wine or tonight. This is really good whiskey. Life's too short for bad wine or bad whiskey. So, cheers, salon, thank you. All right, I realize I just made a silly mistake because my cameraman, who is my camera wife tonight, she made a comment. Yeah, what I meant when Ralphie talks about when you pour whiskey, 1 minute in the glass for every minute in the cask. No, 1 minute. No, 1 minute. See, this is the type of bloopers that happen. 1 minute in the glass for every year in the cask. Thank you. Good night.